Hey, I'm Daniel, and today I want to show you how you can create a little calculator application with the RemoteUI Web Framework. And I'm already starting here, editing a little layout for the calculator. That's a similar layout language as Android has, so I can use some keywords like fill parent and so on to arrange my buttons. I'm editing a button here for the 7 in the calculator later on, and then when I save, the server pushes these layout changes to all connected clients. In this case, we have a connected client here on the right. It's an emulator running Android and the Android RemoteUI client. But you can also connect real devices to the server and see your changes in different devices. I'm adding some buttons here for 8 and 9 in the first line. So later on I will copy this for buttons 4, 5 and 6 and 1, 2 and 3, that's clear. And these buttons are arranged in horizontal lines. I'm using linear layout that defaults to horizontal orientation. But I'm realizing here that I need another button for all clear. I also need buttons for minus and plus. And I'm adding these into the existing lines, and the emulator reflects what I'm doing on the right. Copying the last line for 0.0 times and division, and last but not least, I need an equals button, so I copy the last line again, but I delete the other buttons here, and all what's left is an equals button. But as you can see on the right, it's a bit small, it should be wider, so I'm using fill parent here to let the button fill up all the width of the device. Last but not least, we need a little text view to show our calculation. I'm using an edit text view here. And then I will edit the buttons a bit. The buttons of the calculator should scale to a wider representation here. I want them to scale to 1/4 of the device's width, so that 4 buttons fill the complete width. What I'm using is the layout weight attribute here. So when I give all buttons in one line the same layout weight, they scale to 1/4 of the line. And because I don't want to repeat myself, I don't want to copy these attributes to every button in the layout. I'm using a CSS styling here that comes with RemoteUI's Web Framework, and I'm styling every button with a layout weight of 1 and a width of 0, so that it is clear what the weight is applied to. I'm giving also a font size of 30 so that the text is a bit larger. Next, I need an action binding. RemoteUI has a data binding functionality, so I can name a method here that is called when the button is clicked. I call it onButtonClicked and give it a parameter of 7. I can define this method in my web activity. That's a little object that is the logic for the layout. I call this onButtonClicked again and have a parameter of type string here. You can choose every parameter type that you want. And then I define a little member string named calculation. This member is public to have access later on. You will see what we will be doing with this. And the method does nothing else but appending what I have typed on my keyboard to this calculation string. So for sure I have to copy and paste this action binding to every button where it is applied. The AC button will have another action binding there, and then I define the parameters. These are just the button values, so that's straightforward here. In comparison to other data binding frameworks, you don't have to define a method for every button here, because you have the possibility to define the parameter. You can choose strings and other types because we are using a very advanced expression language here that can apply every parameter you defined here nearly. Let's define another method for all clear, just on AC clicked. And what this does is just delete what's in the calculation string so far. So just define it with an empty string. When you press the equals button, you will call another method on evaluate. And evaluation itself will not be as simple, but we are lucky. I am using a little library here that's called jeval. This library comes with an evaluator class that's capable of evaluating strings. So that's very good. We can reuse it here to evaluate our calculation. The evaluate method can also throw an exception. So for simplicity here, I'm just assigning the message of the exception to our calculation. So later on it should appear in our text view. So let's see what it does. The business logic is ready. Restarting the server with the RemoteUI framework running. It's a Tomcat server and the client recognizes that the connection has been lost, but you can reconnect initially directly and then choose the calculator to see what it does. And as you can see, it does nothing because we forgot something. I forgot something, namely binding the calculation member of the web activity to the text views text attribute. This is a data binding because the calculation member is public. It can be accessed here and can be displayed. Another reboot of the server will give us the full functionality. So when I'm typing now, you will see that it works. That's it. Thank you for watching and have fun with RemoteUI. Stay tuned.